Good afternoon. Welcome to the CPOC meeting. Do we have any public speakers who have signed up? Ready?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 4 public speakers in person, and we have 1 pre-recorded message. The first public speaker today will be Jason Anthony, who will be followed by Charlton D'Souza.
Good afternoon, Jano. This afternoon, I'm going to talk about the 42nd Street Connector, which I had the privilege to visit this past Friday. I was impressed that this project was done, in other words, completed early. And I want to thank our chairman and CEO, Jano Lieber, the man who surprises all when he was the head of CND, of completing the projects, not only on time, but on budget. This project has a little flaw, that the transfer between Times Square and Bryant Park is only open between 6 a.m. and midnight. But why not having it overnight when the 7 is suspended between Queensboro Plaza and Hudson Yards? That we could provide service for those commuters that they want to use the 6th Avenue line. And also I noticed that the signage on the 6th Avenue line hasn't been updated. The strip maps and the fines on all subway lines are not updated. So I already spoke to Demetrius to get this done ASAP. And I want to congratulate Wayne and his team to get this job done and on time. So I'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Thank you. The next public speaker is Charlton D'Souza, who will be followed by Omar Vera.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to congratulate Jano Lieber as the new MTA chairman. We are grateful, and we know you're going to do a great job because you've done everything at MTA, so we don't have to worry. And we hope that you'll work with us. We attend all these meetings and stuff like that. The Holler Station, it's the worst station in the system, as well as East New York and Hunters Point Avenue. Those 3 stations need to be rebuilt, and you guys are the experts at that. But I was at that station 2 weeks ago, and an express train came by, and we almost fell down. The platform is dangerously, structurally inefficient. It needs to be rebuilt from the bottom up. And I've spoken to Hector Garcia and, the railroad president, Philip Eng. He's in support of getting the station done. We just need you guys to approve it. And we hope the new governor supports that as well. In terms of Omni, there's been problems with Omni. It's overcharging people who ride the local and express buses. So instead of paying $275, they're paying $525. There's a glitch in that has to be fixed. And something with the CBTC lines, with the E-train and F-train on the Queens Boulevard line, we want to know, some of the trains are not transponding with the CBTC responders on the ground. So that's something that's causing all kinds of issues, and I'm sure you've heard about that. So that needs to be worked on. And in terms of improving, extending Atlantic Ticket to Penn Station overnight, you're the new chairman now, Jano, so you have the power to do it. So, we hope you'll get that done for us, at least overnight. That would be a huge relief to city workers like me who work overnight. So thank you so much, guys, and have a good one.
Thank you. The next public speaker is Omar Vera, who will be followed by Alita Dupree.
Good afternoon, CPOC committee. Welcome. I do have to first, like I said, like this morning, congratulate our new chair and CEO, General Lieber. Yay. Second, I would also say thank you so much on the 42nd Street Shuttle project. You did ahead, like you were finished on time, well, ahead of schedule, and within the appropriate budget. And thanks to all of you, we finally have a free transfer between the Bryant Park station and the Times Square / Port Authority bus terminal complex. Now even more subway lines are connected with each other along 42nd Street. Like what Jason said, the only downside is that transfer is not open 24/7. But if you must maintain the transfer area closed while the shuttle is not running late nights, I suggest you make the transfer out of system. In system daytime, out of system late nights. Could we make a compromise on that? I think we can move forward with that. And also, let's bring on those Omni cards and unlimited fare options. That's what we need for Omni. Onward and forward, moving forward. Thanks a lot, and see you around.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alita Dupree.
Good afternoon, Chair Jano, Lieber, and members. Alita Dupree for the record, she and her. First of all, Jano, congratulations. I hope we can get you a permanent employment agreement so that way you can stay around for a while. And we'd like to have you here for a while, as I like a sense of permanence and continuity. And capital is very important. This is an old system. And I think of the things that are foundational. We can have a beautiful museum quality building like Grand Central Terminal, a favorite place of mine. But what good is it if the train shed leaks or if, flooding and cracked flooring and all kinds of other things? And Omni, as I've mentioned before, is important. And signaling and new rail cars. Really, the biggest thing for me is the ADA work. I climbed up the escalator from the 7 today, and I did okay even while wearing this mask, but there's a lot of people who can't, and I want to have a system that is fully accessible so we can have full participation. How can we pay for that? Because the key to our future of this system is full participation. I'm a person with disabilities. I'm a veteran. And I want to enjoy the system as much as possible. It means that we have to invest in it. It's often in the things that you can't see, the foundational things. You can put new track in, but if the base under the track is no good, if the bridges are rusting, well, what good is that? So let's work on building a system because that's what it takes to be great and legendary. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have one pre-recorded public comment.
We will now hear comments for the Capital Program Oversight Committee. The first speaker is Andy Pollack.
Hello, Chairman Lieber. So I'm going to be praising your team regarding the Long Island Railroad project along the main line, just because I never had thought that we would see the day where, let alone 8 grade crossings have been removed between New Hyde Park and Hicksville. It is truly an incredible feat. I know I've only seen the progress at New Hyde Park. I haven't gone to Mineola yet, but the only thing I've heard regarding the situation at Mineola is along Willis Avenue in Mineola, there's no sidewalk. And I've been seeing pictures and videos online regarding this. It's not really safe for pedestrians to try to walk underneath the tunnel along Willis Avenue because you have a lot of people who need to walk to and from the intermodal center, and it just creates a big inconvenience. And especially how one person was telling me, well, this is a big inconvenience because I can't get the M15 bus from what one person has told me online. So I'm hoping that maybe a proper sidewalk can be built along Willis Avenue, because that would really help the residents of Mineola out a lot, especially make the downtown area more pedestrian friendly. So that's going to conclude my remarks. So thank you so much for listening to what I have to say this afternoon. And I'm looking forward to speaking to the full board this upcoming Wednesday.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that concludes the public comment.
Thank you to all the speakers. And then the speakers have raised issues which, some of which are known to us and that we will actually, through the appropriate channels, try to respond to. So thank you for all of them. First item of business is, Mr. Mulligan, are there changes to the work plan? Any changes to the work plan?
No, there's not.
And are there, do you want to do the report on commitments and completions at this point?
Absolutely. So the commitment completion report through the end of August is in the materials. Starting first with commitments. Through August, agencies have committed $2.2 billion versus a $3.6 billion goal. So that's behind what our schedule is year to date. But we have about $500 million worth of unplanned commitments, which has offset the slippage. For the third quarter, which we're 2/3 the way through, our forecast is about 60%, just under $1 billion, and the remainder of those are primarily shifted in a forecast to the fourth quarter. The completion report. The year-to-date goal is about $4.5 billion over the total 21 annual goal of $7.2 billion worth of completions. We are at 2.4 of the 4.5 thus far. There's 15 major projects that represent the majority of the projects that have slipped in their completion date. But of those 15, only 4 are outside of the year, and we're still forecasting 97% of the annual goal being completed by the end of the year.
I just think, because we're just doing numbers, can you give a little color to the members of the board who are here about the challenges, especially in the commitments, because we've been wrestling with those for some time.
Right. So the commitment process is very involved, and one of the particular things that is we are taking time to get right is the procurement and contracting process. The contracting team is unifying the contract, using the same Division 1s for different agencies, and that re-engineering of the contract to make a clearer, more biddable, clear allocation of risk for the marketplace contract, requires people doing things differently, a lot of back and forth, a lot of education, and at the volume of projects that we're trying to get out on the street and get through the contracting process, that's the major delay. Also, coming off of the hard stop that we had during COVID, where funding availability was very much in question, and then federally funded or third-party funded projects had to be prioritized at the front of the line to a more broad, full volume, getting back to the full pace of the $55 billion program. I think that those really characterize the primary issues. I will note that we have about $5 billion worth of third-party construction contract that's out on the street. That is a significant number, and that's the leading indicator of when those awards are going to get made and the work's going to start. So it is picking up. The end of the year is loaded to an extent that makes us nervous to have things backloaded at the end of the year. But the important thing is that we're getting the work through with better contracts, with some real favorable bids and some contracts that take advantage of this time in terms of market and the hungriness of the contractors to get work. And we're continuing to push through the volume.
Okay, and I'll break with protocol and actually inject a comment myself, which is that one of the reasons we're so anxious to move all this, frankly, is that we're anticipating that when the infrastructure bill hopefully gets done in Washington, there's going to be a lot of money in the marketplace, which is, supply and demand reality. We are very focused on making sure that we get a lot of the major projects out and awarded before that starts to move if it does, move the market in terms of pricing. So it's a necessity that we really advance this aggressively. I think the team is doing it, but those are some of the challenges that, so you're all aware, that have been encountered along the way. With that, unless there are questions, I will throw it to Mark Roche for your presentation, if you would.
Thank you, Chair. Commissioners, just want to do a couple of updates on projects before we get into the main subject today, which is the Metro North and Long Island Railroads areas to report on their projects. And even before that, I'm going to pass to my colleague Dan Nichols here to give it an update on one of the strategic initiatives we've been taking on code compliance.
Great, good afternoon. I'm Dan Nichols, overseeing the fire ADA and code compliance under the delivery group in C&D. And we just undertook a significant project that within a year we're able to wrap up that we believe is really going to be a help. All of the projects that you see that come in front of you, mainly stations, yards projects, all are subject to the state building code and the state fire prevention code. And whereas they're great for normal, above ground, everyday conventional buildings, they don't work very well sometimes with our existing infrastructure based underground, elevated, and aging buildings. So during the process of most of these larger projects, we would have to approach the state of New York and ask for code variance. That was very lengthy in time, very unstable in determining what the answer would actually be, and added a whole bunch of questions during the smack dab middle of a design of a project. So we approached the state and went ahead and asked if we could take all of this work that we've done, over 300 variances over the last 20 years, and put them together into a document that everybody could have access to, upfront understand, and then make it applicable to today's project instead of maybe some of the older projects that they were attached to. So we were able to pull that off. Next slide. And we now have our own section of the state building code. And it was done through the regulatory process, open process, whereas it went to the Department of State, who is the custodian of the State Uniform Fire Prevention and Building Code. We worked with them collaboratively to put a document together that addressed all of the variances that we got, whether it was a variance to use the commonly accepted document NFPA 130, which is the worldwide standard on how we design new stations. And how do you apply that to an existing station, which worldwide there is no document that has been developed on how you redevelop a station. So we worked with our variances, the work that was already done by all of the agencies, as well as with the Department of State and NFPA 130, to put together this new document, which puts together 203 previously approved variances. It's now in a 13-page document, publicly available, went out to public comment to the state regulatory process, and now as of July 14th is able to be used by MTA. And we're excited that we are actually able to amend the building permit for Elmont Station. And Elmont Station is currently using these new provisions already within a month of it being adopted. So a lot of content to address infrastructure-based buildings, which isn't addressed. And we really look forward to the future to continue to be involved in updating the code. As other code provisions come forward, other regulations from outside environmental, accessibility, structural, resiliency come aboard, we can now modify this living document to make it more applicable to our projects, not only for cost, but for safety and reliability. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, and I just add that it wasn't mentioned at the outset, but Dan Nichols, who's making your presentation, happens to be one of the premier experts on New York State Building Code, and we were very lucky to have him join the MTA team to help develop this, because it saves an enormous amount of time in going through the bureaucracy of trying to get code variances because the building code was not aligned for mass transit facilities. Kevin.
Yeah, no, I think this is a great idea. Just curious, who issued the first permit for Elmont? Was it a village or a town or the county, and then we were able to amend it on our own?
No, we worked forward, and Elmont started understanding they would need a variance to do this, which would have been, in normal times, a 3 to 6 month extended process. But we were right in the middle of this adoption process through the regulatory process, and we were able to have indicators along the way that we would, at the end, pull the plug and go to a variance if it didn't work. And we had that ready to go, but luckily the Code Council voted in June, and away we went. So,
Great, and
we approved it.
is it only for buildings, or, MTA should be able to issue their own town curb cuts and highway permits and things like that? Is this envisioned in what you've already done, or are we going to do that in the future?
We are going to do much more modification as the law, the Uniform Code Act allows us to, which has a lot to do with jurisdictional authorities. So there is a lot more work to do, and that is one of the items that we do have on our list to see how we can work on that.
Good, because I think it's crazy that local municipalities who are creatures of the state can somehow thwart a state entity like us when they withhold issuing permits.
Board Member Albert.
Will this new code require an examination of all existing buildings and possibly having to upgrade existing buildings?
There's no retroactive requirement in this document in this first phase that we worked on to collaborate all of the variances, all the work we've already done.
Okay. So what's there is fine.
What's there is final, which is how the Uniform Code treats all buildings in the state at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. More steps to come in that in the months and years ahead. Just 3 project updates, if I could. I think some of the speakers may have identified this already, but the milestone of getting 8 undergrade crossings completed for the 3rd track project has been achieved. Most notably, the double crossing at Willis is now open. I will, for the purpose of correcting when the speakers say that the crossing at Willis was not wide enough to put in a sidewalk. We were about to put in an overpass bridge, which will be there next. Key to the completion of these 8 and at Willis is it allows us to move forward with all the works in Mineola, which is really the critical path of the project. So that is well underway and still on target.
What's the status of Main Street in Mineola?
Main Street in Mineola is closed.
Yes. There's supposed to be a pedestrian overpass, I believe, installed?
Pedestrians, correct. That pedestrian overpass is about to be constructed now that we can have access to the ground to do that. Yeah, it's underway. I seem to have lost the presentation. Can we get the deck back up there? Thank you. I'll get there.
Today we add the rebuilding of the Times Square to Grand Central shuttle to our list of accomplishments. The shuttle was part of the very first subway line that opened in 1904. It is among the very oldest parts of our system. Now it's finally been rebuilt. The new shuttle is easier to navigate. Look at it. The tracks have been straightened, and there's now a single and much wider platform. This allows us to run longer trains with more capacity during the peak hour and to speed boarding, because we all know that the shuttle is all about moving quickly.
This is a very proud moment for construction and development, where we've now made the station fully ADA accessible. We've provided a free transfer over from Times Square to Bryant Park. We had many, many challenges along the way, COVID being one of them. But again, we're very, very proud of this project. It is really transformational along this 42nd Street connection corridor.
Kudos to the project team. They got this work done faster than anyone expected, and it was on schedule and on budget. Those are the words we love hearing.
couldn't have said it better. Just one final point in that, if I get all the folks that are involved in this are listed in that last bullet, and I couldn't tell you how much cooperation we've had in those 15 days to make sure that this happened on time. It was an extraordinary feat of coordination between everyone, and I thank everybody very, very much, particularly the operations folks. Just one update on one of the CBTC projects for a second. This is the QBL line, the Queens Boulevard line. Area in red remains to be completed. Just under 90% of the line is already CBTC enabled. We have delayed the completion of this last section from July of this year to December of this year to enable some of the Thales and Siemens software to be updated. Given the numbers of folks on the line, we didn't want to have updates to computer software interacting in ways that we couldn't predict. So we're doing some more testing behind the scenes before we implement some of those final upgrades by the end of the year. That's probably new information that we've delayed it from July till the end of the year.
So we've all heard the stories about delays to EFM and R trains at various times of day due to this project. Is that because not all of the equipment that runs on those 4 lines can read the new signals, or is it something else that's causing these delays?
I'll give you an example of the kind of thing that we've been dealing with. Behind the scenes, when we test equipment, we get a number of signals to be handled by a certain piece of equipment. When we turned on some of the system, we got 4 times the number of signals being delivered to that equipment, and it didn't know which one to handle first. So we've had to take that offline and can say, well, what equipment has been sending that signal and why, and what's the priority? It's designed to fail safe, so there's no question about it, but it's just the number of signals in some of the equipment was unexpected, given some of the geometry. That's the typical type of local issue that we've been dealing with.
We're also installing CBTC on portions of the Culver line. Are you experiencing the same issues there?
We haven't quite got to that situation yet, or on the 8th Avenue line. That's
Right.
next, but this is by far the more complicated line, and the software that's been updated for this will hopefully clear the path for those lines.
Did we undergo this kind of disruption on the 7 or the L line when we were doing them?
Yes, and very, very similar, but with different equipment. And since this is interoperability, it's a sort of the next level of interaction of those equipments. And we have upgraded some of the equipment, so it's new issues, but similar to those lines. I will say that for the future lines, we are looking at the idea of further, more detailed testing in a virtual world to make sure that we can minimize this type of reliability testing in the future.
Thank you.
I mean, listen, we just always got to be level with each other. We're not thrilled that the delivery, the full delivery, is delayed, but with our loads, with our ridership situation, we decided to prioritize absolute reliability over the completion of the speed of completion of the CBTC. So we decided we had enough room to be cautious about the impact on the system, and that's what Mark is describing.
Your previous slide where you were talking about the problem that you encountered, where on the line is that portion that's highlighted?
That is to the west of...
Your mic's not on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That's towards the end of the line, just it's at the I'm not quite sure exactly where that is, but I can tell you afterwards because I can't remember the names of the station. Okay, I'll come back.
It's on the western end of the line?
It's on the eastern end of the line.
Eastern end of the line, so near 179th Street? Or?
Somewhere in that area, but it's on the track, and I'm not quite sure exactly.
Okay,
I'll get you the mileage numbers in a little bit. Okay.
Okay. Good afternoon. Paul Daitlin, Long Island Railroad Business Unit Lead. I don't know if you can pull up the presentation. There we go. Okay, thank you. All right, well, it's been a while since we were last here presenting live, since October 2019. So we're working, quite a few projects, 115 various stages of projects, whether in design or construction, and they really represent all the active asset categories that we have. And again here, I don't know, here's our map. We are working all over the system, predominantly focused on the mainline corridor between Jamaica and Hicksville at this point, but we are all over the system. Here's just some of the projects that we've awarded since our last CPOC report. Certainly, there's a few larger projects in there like Elmont Station, our Babylon to Patchogue signal system equipment effort, and of course our track program is one of our major efforts each year. And then here's some of our projects we've completed since the last update. There are several Eastside Access Readiness projects, Jamaica Platform F, Massapequa Pocket Track, and our Mid-Suffolk Yard. And there's a fair amount of station work represented there and state of good repair. So here's just a timeline of projects, just trying to give you an appreciation of some of the durations. In many cases, our projects require significant phasing or staging, and also require equipment procurements that take a bit of time. So all of these contribute to the duration of the projects. I mean, we work very hard to find ways to minimize the timeline, be more efficient, like design build, bundling, things like that. So just wanted to give you a sense of that. And now I'll just talk about a few of our specific projects. Here is our Mid-Suffolk train yard. It's completed now at this point. It's in service. It's one of our Eastside Access Readiness projects that will support our rail service increase. We added 11 new tracks. Each track holds 12 car train sets. So we have 22 tracks out there in Ronkonkoma at this point. We did complete slightly behind our original plan, but this is consistent with our prior CPOC updates where we had noted delays due to impacts related to our substation power feeds for our new DC traction power substations. Here's just a few pictures, one of our signal locations for the new connection into the yard, our DC substation, and then of course there's the support facility on the right. So now I'll move on to Morris Park Locomotive Shop, and we actually just recently achieved substantial completion there. This shop will replace our 139-year-old roundhouse. You can see an old picture from on the inset there. The new shop has 4 tracks, drop table, bridge cranes, and other shop equipment to help us effectively and efficiently maintain our fleet, improve our turnaround time, and obviously that all leads to increased reliability for our fleet. We did have some challenges since we had last met, and the project did slip based on some previously reported risks. We had the issue with the long lead equipment. At prior meetings, I had talked about the closure of the shop equipment manufacturer who was supplying our turntables and drop tables. The vendor had to develop a new design that was based on already installed equipment embedments. It was a little bit of a design challenge for them. It took a little bit longer than anticipated. And during commission testing of the actual drop tables, we did have 2 failures of bearings on the lift posts that raise and lower the drop tables. And while the bearing replacements, function properly, the new vendor did improve their bearing design, and given the extended warranty requirements of the contract, they offered to replace all of the bearings with a new, more robust design. We had also had a power risk facing the shop. Con Edison was going to provide a 5th feeder, and the design builder was supposed to assume that in his design. However, during the course of the project, Con Ed decided that there was existing capacity within the existing 4 feeders to the Morris Park area, so we had to spend some time redesigning some of the electrical service equipment and the distribution equipment in the building. And so overall, these delays did lead to a slip of the project. As far as the budget, we are forecasting a slightly higher EAC as well, estimated completion. mainly due to the significant amount of unforeseen structures underground that we required removal. If you know about the historic use of the Morris Park complex, there were a series of shops underneath the footprint of where this building is now. But as we wrap up this project, we will perform, of course, our normal lessons learned process and review what happened and the impacts and avoid that on future projects. And here's just a couple pictures. There's the drop table actually during testing there. One of the locomotives brought in for that, and an exterior view of the shop from the parking lot. And again, another photo of the pit, the drop table pits. There's two maintenance pit platforms with elevated track. There's storage areas for materials and parts. And then, of course, there's elevated work platforms for the staff to help maintain the equipment safely. So Jamaica, Phase 1, as I've previously talked about, Phase 1 is an Eastside Access Readiness Project. We finished constructing a new Platform F at Jamaica and associated track infrastructure that will allow us to support Eastside Access opening day service. The third-party contractor did complete Platform F in February of 2020. We actually started to use it, but with the service reductions initiated due to COVID, we took it offline for a while. Looks like we'll be using it again this fall as we support new Elmont event date service. So overall, our project still remains on budget. We're about 85% complete. There are some track, signal, and third rail work for some universal crossovers and interlockings that'll happen. Those efforts support really the next phase of Jamaica, or they put us in play. Yes.
So I've spoken about this, as have others, about Platform F. There's ways it can be a great success, but if you're going to make all of those folks who now have either a one-seat ride or an across-the-platform transfer at Jamaica go up and over to Platform F to continue their trip to Atlantic Terminal, that is not going to go over well. It's all in the service plan, obviously. Are you aware of any service plan? Is shuttle service to Brooklyn off-peak only, and rush hour will continue to have the connections that Long Islanders normally have, or they're going to be, not happy about this?
I think, our service planning group is looking very hard at that. The president of the railroad, Phil Lang, has been very clear about wanting to try to minimize any impacts. But ultimately, Platform F will provide more robust service to and from Brooklyn during the peak periods. Obviously, there'll be more as we approach the opening of Eastside Access.
But I think that the working model, Andrew, is a little bit of it seems to be where Phil is operating. It's a little bit of a Goldilocks solution. Do take advantage of additional capacity by running a more frequent shuttle type service, but also retain some one-seat operations
or across the platform transfers.
Yeah, across platform transfers to Atlantic. That seems to be, if I'm not mistaken, Paul, the current base service plan that. But we have to say it. The part of the goal of Eastside Access and Third Track is to increase overall service capacity. So we need to make use of that additional platform as well.
Speaking of increasing service capacity, I have noticed on trains that run express between Jamaica and Woodside or Penn Station without a stop at Kew Gardens or Forest Hills, many of those trains are not running on the express track. They're still running on the local track between Jamaica and Woodside. And I'm wondering why more utilization of I've watched to see if there's a local train in the way, and there isn't. So I'm just wondering why, as part of the Jamaica capacity improvement, you don't reroute trains at Jamaica if their next stop is Woodside or Penn Station. Yeah.
I think there's a significant, as we'll talk a little bit about it, in Jamaica Phase 2, one of the major goals of Jamaica Phase 2 is to streamline the routing through Jamaica allow for higher speeds and capacity improvements. So I think that will go a long way to support that. The other thing I'll just point out is that all of these interlocking and system improvements do not preclude or break existing connections that would allow routing from the existing station tracks to the current locations like Atlantic Terminal.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Here's just a photo of the platform completed and the Arts for Transit effort up to the mezzanine. Again, here's the western end. This is our Diamond Crossover and a view of our Diamond Crossover and the new westerly bridge connection from the Platform F to the platforms A through E. Beaver interlocking. This is one of the interlockings we're adding. Signal equipment's being installed up on a hill, up on the right of way, and we've used a small business mentor program contractor here to do some of that work. So they're doing a very good job, actually. Now this is really Jamaica Phase 2. This is sort of the next piece. Jamaica Complex was constructed in 1913. It is really, at this point, our major system capacity constraint. And over the next several programs, we're going to look to dramatically increase our speeds through Jamaica. Due to the overall complexity of the station and the interlockings, we'll strategically stage and phase this effort over multiple programs to reduce our impacts to the customers and the operation while maintaining our service. And I have a brief video that I'll play here, which will talk about the first key elements of JCI Phase 2. So hopefully this works.
The Long Island Railroad's Jamaica Complex is one of the busiest stations in the nation. Hundreds of thousands of regular LIRR customers depend on over 1,200 daily trains to move them to their jobs, schools, and families. With 10 of the 11 LIRR branches running through Jamaica, as well as available connections to 3 subway lines, 18 bus routes, and the air train to JFK Airport, it's more than just a transit hub. It's a major economic driver for the region. But Jamaica's configuration has not substantially changed in over 100 years, which poses significant challenges to accommodating current and future levels of Long Island Railroad train service. Every morning, the antiquated layout of the interlocking causes conflicts with westbound traffic. In this first example, the westbound Atlantic Branch train has to wait to enter the station until the Montauk Branch and Mainline Branch trains pass. Now a Mainline Branch train has to wait until that Atlantic Branch train passes. And again, just a short time later, another Atlantic Branch train has to wait until Montauk Branch and Mainline Branch trains pass. The Hall Interlocking Expansion Project, part of the larger Jamaica Capacity Improvements Phase 2 program, is the first step in dramatically improving Jamaica's interlockings. By adding additional parallel routes to and from Jamaica Station, the current rush hour conflicts will be eliminated and train routing significantly improved, resulting in a more streamlined commute through the station. The new routes will be added by building a new 2-track railroad bridge in the middle of Hall interlocking. Innovative rapid bridge construction methodologies will be utilized to minimize impact to rail and road traffic during execution of the project. As part of future JCI Phase 2 work taking place in later MTA capital programs, Jamaica platforms A through E will be extended to accommodate 12-car trains. That means less passenger inconvenience and faster train alighting and boarding, resulting in less station dwell time. In addition, the JCI Phase 2 program will be implementing additional parallel routes and eliminating existing points of conflict, upgrading all existing railroad systems throughout Jamaica, undertaking major state-of-good repair improvements, and drastically modifying track configurations. This will culminate in a near doubling of speeds through Jamaica, shaving 3 to 4 minutes of commuting time in each direction, as well as resulting in a much more reliable commute for LIRR passengers traveling through the station.
So, this is actually the design effort we're going through right now. We've completed our design for the 20 to 24 program efforts or elements. We achieved those on schedule. And we're going to finish the design up by February of 2022, slightly behind our original plan because we are doing a tremendous amount of value engineering and best value to eliminate redundancy, try to reduce infrastructure, better the track design, and more standards. So we look forward to completing that in February, and still on budget.
And that 95% or more of the interlocking work will be done east of the Jamaica station?
There is actually, which probably about 50-50 in the end.
Is it really? Didn't look like from that video, but.
Yeah, it looks like that. Almost all the switches in this picture shown in yellow, many of them are going to be changed to new higher speed switches, and certainly a bunch of them eliminated to kind of streamline routing. So this is just I'm going to give you a little closer look at the 20 to 24 elements, really, which are the Met interlocking reconfiguration, or the full reconfiguration of that, and then the hall expansion. So I think the long and short of it is there's that both phases, $235 million, I'm sorry, and pending the funding approvals, we will start to move those, and we could expect to commence those as early as the third quarter of next year. Again, the design documents are done for that effort. A significant state of good repair goes with that as well. And here, just briefly, mention Elmont. We're underway, as you probably know. Ultimately, the station will support Belmont and provide a new station for the surrounding community. We're building 2 12-car platforms, reconfiguring the yard, and making some track and signal changes that will support new mainline service. So we've staged the project here again. We'll be done with the south platform, 8 cars of it this fall to support early event service at the arena, and then the full build out will be completed at the end of 2022. Here's just a couple more photos. It's you can see the good progress on both the north and the south platforms here, and the barriers. And then here's some pictures of some force account support work, significant track reconfiguration that will allow us to construct the platform here, and then also support track changes back to the main line. And there'll be more to come on that one. And here, just a couple business unit challenges. You know, we're working very closely with C&D groups, HR, the design services group to help with our staffing and training. We're working very closely with Long Island Railroad for track outage planning and the manpower or headcount forecasting to make sure we can support the needs of the capital efforts as well as the ongoing maintenance that they do. And then, you know, of course, funding is always a concern for us, but we are prepared to move procurements out as soon as funding clearances are given. So that's all I have.
Questions for Paul? Randy? Board Member Glass.
No questions. I had the privilege of being in the old Morris Park, and this is like unbelievable. I look forward to actually going there and seeing what it looks like today.
We'll be happy to give you a tour.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a question. The Jamaica improvement plan, it looks really cool, and in the beginning you referred to it's part of a east side access relief or connectivity type of project. Is most of that work, though, would that have been needed whether east side access was happening or not? Because you said it was 100 years old, but are we able to, is that built into the $11 billion price tag for east side access, or is that part of our regular capital project? and on top of what's going on for East Side Access?
My quick answer will be yes and no. So ultimately, this Jamaica project really represents, at least 50% of it really represents just plain old state of good repair, tracks, signal, switch replacement. And the East Side Access piece, splitting off, Brooklyn service or making capacity available to us, was the first piece that's done now. The rest of it would have had to happen to support future service growth and service reliability for state of good repair over time.
This project has been on the books for a million years. I mean, everybody's known for a long time from whatever, that one of the severe constraints on Long Island Railroad service growth was the infrastructure in and around Jamaica, right? That's what everybody knows as the Jamaica crawl. Long Island Railroad riders all know it because you got to go in and out of these areas close to the station at, what, 15 miles an hour, Paul?
Or less.
Yeah. So this is attacking that. And one of the things that our team did, I did, was to say this project, which has historically been, picked away at in many phases in small bites, we're growing the bites dramatically. It can't all be done in one program because of logistics and outages, not just money. But we are attacking this much more aggressively because the benefits are so huge for the capacity of the system. So it's really a priority. All right, I'm going to make the executive decision to move us along unless there's other comments because we're already out of time and we have the great Metro North team still to go. No, I'm sorry. IEC, commentary on the Long Island Railroad projects, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This month, the IEC is reporting on 2 Long Island Railroad projects. The Long Island Railroad Morris Park Diesel Shop reported by the IEC is on page 10 of your committee book. On schedule, the shop was declared substantially complete in July of 2021, an 8-month slip since the last report. It's important to note that there was no operational impact because the other shop remained open and operating. As reported by the Long Island Railroad by Paul, a shop equipment manufacturer went out of business, and the project had to identify and contract with a new manufacturer. The IEC believes the project took the proper precautionary measures by working with the new shop equipment manufacturer and having redesigned bearings installed on all drop tables at their cost. Remaining work includes punch list and testing and commissioning, for which there's just standard schedule risk. Beneficial use of the shop is now imminent, and now the delivery of Con Ed provided transformer and shop's power equipment connection are now complete. Regarding budget, the project is forecast an EAC estimated completion of $106 million, which exceeds the budget by $3.7 million. A budget modification was moved this morning at the Railroad Committee meeting to cover this budget shortfall caused by the need for an upgrade to the water service and concrete replacement in certain storage areas. Due to outstanding change orders and a claim, the IC believes there may be a slight rise in additional $1 million. And that concludes the IEC report on the Morris Park Diesel Shop. And we'll get to Jamaica. The IEC report on the Jamaica Capacity Improvement Project begins on page 14 of the committee book. Overall, the project is on budget. The schedule has been affected primarily by force account availability. Each early major work elements, Johnson Yard reconfiguration and Plat 4F, have declared substantial completion. What remains primarily is force account work at Union, Met, and Beaver interlockings. Regarding the schedule now reflects an 8-month slip in substantial completion to June of 2022, owing to the need for force account to support high-priority projects such as positive train control, East Side Access, and Long Island expansion projects. IEC is of the opinion that this delay is not recoverable. However, since remaining work is progressing as planned, we do believe that June 22 substantial completion date is now achievable. Regarding the budget, the project budget and estimate remain at $302 million. The IEC expects that there will be some added costs, perhaps of $1 million or $2 million, due to schedule slip, change orders, claims, and the like, but there are sufficient reserves in the current budget to cover such costs. There are some standard risks associated with the project, but our remarks are mainly in line with the Long Island Railroad's previous remarks. That concludes the report on Jamaica capacity improvement.
Thank you, Mr. DeVito. Ziona Rubin, Metro North.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Ziona Rubin. I'm acting Metro North Business Unit. May I have the deck, please? This slide shows the number of third-party active construction project Metro North Business Unit is responsible for. The pie chart represents the distribution of these projects. We also have 9 active design projects worth $66.5 million. These projects encompass various engineering disciplines, as you can see from the pie chart. This map shows the location of our construction project within the Metro North Railroad territory. And this slide shows the construction timelines for projects described further in this presentation. Some projects require multiple phases to complete in order to minimize disruption to our customers and our service. This is a list of the 26 contracts we awarded since the last CPOC meeting in October 2019. And this slide provides the list of remaining projects to be committed in 2021. Now projects. The Harmon Shop Phase 1, Stage 2 is under construction. We're building a main shop and storeroom and installing all the facilities' heavy equipment such as hoists, overhead cranes, and lifts. The project requires extensive coordination with internal and external stakeholders so that work continues smoothly while the yard is operational. The foundation and site work are complete, and we are now installing the structural steel in the building envelope. The top picture shows the old demolished Building 6, and the bottom 2 pictures show the rendering of the new building. This slide shows a picture of the newly installed structural steel. The project is expected to stay on budget and be completed in April 2023. The 6-month delay is due to the closeout of the previous project, Phase 5, Stage 1. The Customer Service Initiative project provided for new modern real-time customer service information systems in Grand Central Terminal and 20 outlying stations. It provided new public address system, big boards, gate boards, and advertising displays in Grand Central Terminal. In 20 Metro North outlying stations, it provided new public address system, customer information, and advertising displays, as well as new security cameras and elevator monitoring system upgrades. The pictures from the left show the big boards, which were replaced with new LED technology. The previous boards were beyond their useful life and had critical failures. The next picture shows an arrival and departure board in Grand Central Terminal lower level. The other picture on the right shows a new advertising display located in an outlying station platform, which is generating revenue for the MTA. And on the right are security cameras installed at an outlying station. The $216 million estimate at completion is based on the latest capital project monthly progress report. The delay to the substantial completion from April to December 2021 is due to national breach in software. The top picture shows a platform display in an outlying station. Below, you can see a new sheet metal display in Grand Central Terminal, including an arrival departure board, information map, and a map of all the listings of vendors at Grand Central Terminal. This slide encompasses work on Metro North Harlem and Hudson lines to upgrade communication, signal, and power systems. Additionally, it includes the Sandy Restoration Project, which replaces critical signal power and communication infrastructure in 2 phases from Croton Harmon to Greystone. Phase 1 from Croton Harmon to Greystone is under commissioning, and Phase 2 from Greystone to the Bronx is under construction. This picture shows a plow train using direct burial method to install the express cable. This method will commence on the Upper Hudson Line this month. The photo on the slide shows the new elevated platform constructed to replace various equipments on the Sandy project. The reason for the delay in budget overruns are described in the next slide. The communication and signal improvement projects on the Hudson and Harlem line experienced delays and budget increases due to the following: delays to limited track outages stemming from operation of two-track territory while competing with other projects and maintenance work. Delayed are attributed to shortage of flagging and force account staff stemming from staff shortages. Delays to the Harlem Line project were attributed to additional design work and support needed to install new poles capable of supporting the new aerial cables. This work was not identified originally during the design. Additional costs stemming from the extended construction period, which was not factored during the project planning and design, resulted in additional cost. The Hudson Line project needed redesign due to unforeseen soil condition due to lack of preliminary site investigation. The Hudson Line project also preceded PTC. Therefore, PTC requirements incorporated into the plow train delayed and added cost to the project. The Sandy project, this project's main challenge is obtaining the necessary track outages to perform the work. Additionally, lack of flagging, power track, and CNS support due to staff shortages caused delay. The project also suffered delay and additional costs due to prioritizing the PTC work. The Park Avenue Viaduct is the main artery that carries all passenger trains to and from the heart of Metro North system, Grand Central Terminal. Park Avenue Viaduct was built in 1893 and is over 128 years old. The priority repair project is performing immediate retrofits to the viaduct structure. The top picture, you can see rendering of the construction for the replacement of the portion of the Park Avenue Viaduct. The bottom right shows an aerial photo of the northern half of the Park Avenue Viaduct taken from the Harlem River Lift Bridge. On the left, you can see the location of the Park Avenue Viaduct. The viaduct is the main artery where the Hudson, Harlem, and New Haven lines converge into and out of Grand Central. The Park Avenue Replacement Project will make once-in-a-century replacement to segments of the Park Avenue Viaduct. The master plan phase is complete. Preliminary engineering solicitation begins this quarter, and the design-build project RFP release is anticipated in late 2022. The bottom left picture shows rendering of the existing bridge being removed with self-propelled modular transports. And on the right, you can see the same method to install the new bridge. Here we have a list of projects that we completed since the last CPOC meeting. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Did the recent storms affect any of the work going on the upper part and the lower part of the Hudson Line? That was one of the earlier slides you showed.
No, they did not.
Okay.
They affected the lower parts of the Hudson Line.
Okay, right. Okay. Second question is the viaduct replacement. Are you actually going to be removing two of the 4 tracks from service to put this in? No.
No.
Sure
We're
looked
going
like-
to
looked
be
like it.
taking out of service 2 tracks, which will affect the service minimally as possible during weekends and holiday weekends, yes.
Thank you.
To the point, the team discovered that project, which we had in the capital program, was urgent. So that's why you had a priority replacement effort to deal with some conditions that have been identified by the team as that, since the new capital program started, even as the bigger project was being developed. The IEC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The IC report on Harmon Shops begins on page 24 of your CPOC committee book. The project is a final part of a multi-year, multi-capital program to renew the Harmon Shops in their entirety. Regarding schedule, this project, which is 41% complete, was granted a 6-month time extension to April of 2023 due to delays associated with the completion of Stage 1 work. The IEC has 2 observations we'd like to highlight on this project. Stage 2 is have some impact due to worksite access restrictions. Reduced Metro-North service during the COVID pandemic has caused more trains to be stored in the yard than originally planned. To mitigate the delay, Metro-North operations coordinated with the project team and resequenced the track work and allowed Metro-North to turn over the south yard to the design builder. The risk on this project now shifts to the contractor's performance. The current completion date requires a 4-month continuous track outage of the north yard starting no later than December. The project team must confirm and ensure that the contractor and force account resources are sufficient to achieve the productivity necessary to complete the project within the prescribed window. Regarding the budget, the project remains on budget with an EAC of $440 million. The IEC analysis of the expenditures indicate the project will remain within this budget, and that concludes our report on Harmon Shops.
Further questions from the always tolerant board members? On anything. The floor is yours.
So let me just ask, is it possible, perhaps the next meeting, to have a report on the learnings of these last month of 100-year storms and whatever on our capital thinking, and whether or not we should be rejiggering our approach, whether there's some changes, but some serious thought of what have we learned and how it should impact how we go forward.
It just so happens that my friend Mr. Mulligan is leading the team that is, just as it happened, I had restarted a lapsed partnership with the city Department of Environmental Protection and some other city agencies on the issue of which are the vulnerable stations in the event of flash flooding. Obviously, as a result of the IDA experience, we now have accelerated that with the city's strong commitment as well. And Tim is leading that. In candor, I'd say if I would prefer you gave us a couple months, because the meetings of that group have really just begun after the cleanup from IDA, and it would be, I think, more fruitful. It's a good question, but more fruitful if you gave us more than 1 month to cook it up. So let's say I owe you 2 months preliminary, very preliminary thinking about how this may impact, and we'll have to talk to our planning group, are thinking about the 20-year needs assessment. That's really what it goes to. Okay. We have concluded our meeting 15 minutes late. Hopefully our major projects are more on time than our meetings. But you see there's a ton going on from this team, and I think that what you're seeing, although there's some slippage in project schedules, as well as these major projects are advancing, and COVID didn't take too much of a bite out of the COVID for projects that were underway. They basically continued to move forward. What you also heard today is that we're struggling to catch up with the pace that we all wanted to be at in the outset of the new capital program. So those are the sort of two sides of the capital program coin that I would emphasize for the board. Tom, is there anything else that we should mention before we break? I know I was supposed to call for approval of the minutes. I neglected to do that. Do we? What? We don't have a quorum, so we're going to have to do it in future.
I'd just point out the traffic light report is in your book. If anyone has any questions, we're happy to take those.
All right.
The status of the funding of our capital programs, how are we faring, and are we getting what we need from all of our funding partners on a timely basis? Or is that too long?
Answering the question about timeliness is probably, I'd need Bob to be with us to give you a fair answer. But the big picture is where, I think I reported to the board about 3 months ago that we're basically half funded on the capital program. The balance is of the 51.5. The balance, what we're waiting for is the federal funding for Second Avenue Subway Phase 2, which is going through the federal process, not as fast as we would like, but we believe we're making some progress. Second is congestion pricing. And then third is the $10 billion of the program that was slated to come from additional transportation revenue bonds, which depend on the status of our to some extent on the status of our ridership revenue. I think we said it in public, no projects are being delayed for lack of money. We have enough money now, about $25 billion that's available for us to apply the capital program, and that ought to keep us going for 2 to 2.5 years, maybe even 3 years. But the point is, we do need the congestion pricing money, but our need for it is consistent with the schedule that's been laid out for the congestion pricing initiative. Okay?
Thank you.
Anything else before we adjourn? I'll welcome a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Lynn. Thank you, Mr. Albert. Thank you.